Hi, I'm His Lordship, the leader of the Wilderness Guardians, and today I will be reviewing the Runescape documentary, the world premiere for which was last Thursday, and I had the privilege of attending that. This video won't contain any spoilers, so you can watch without fear of having the movie experience ruined for you. So let's, before we get to my very subjective thoughts on the documentary, let's talk about something more generic and work out what the movie was actually about. So it's a documentary that covers the entire lifespan of RuneScape and beyond. It starts before RuneScape was made and talks about the context of the MMO environment, before that the context of the PC, and then the growing up of the Gower brothers. So it's quite thorough in that respect, and it goes, of course, all the way to the modern day in 2016. 90% of it we already know because obviously we lived through RuneScape ourselves and we received all the information in one way or another. However, that's not going to make the movie any more boring because it has so many personal takes on events, and there is a little bit of new content that no one's ever seen before. So it covers all the major moments. It kind of shifts from one major point to another, starting with, the release of RuneScape through the rise of Zezima and the Falador Massacre, the removal of the wilderness, the evolution of combat, old school Runefest, botting, and pretty much way more. For what it contains in 90 minutes, it's actually very, very impressive. It captures many different viewpoints on the same subject as well. So, not only do we get to hear from Zezima, we also get to hear about Zezima from Jagex and other players, and it's really great. So it's very thorough. My thoughts more specifically, in a word, phenomenal. And the main reason for me giving it that rating is because it is brutally honest as a documentary. So I walked in and I expected a propaganda video. Now I expected this even having been part of the interview process. So they did interview me and they did something at length, asking me a whole bunch of questions. And while I did give them very honest answers, both positive and negative, I was kind of expecting them not to talk or to show any of the negative stuff. I thought, we go in and it would be 90 minutes of, look at how awesome we are. That was not the case. So this is Jagex being humble in a way that we have never seen before. And I can't love them more for that. In the past, like we all know, they would often paint this really rosy picture for even the worst decisions they've made. That really twee attitude, like everything is awesome, nothing's wrong, look at how amazing this company and this game is. That kind of thing, which you expect from a company with so many stakeholders and, that wants to secure its financial viability. But here, in this documentary, they did something incredibly brave for a company like them. And they showed vulnerability. Not only did they show vulnerability, they sank their teeth into it and dissected it. You cannot fault them for running away from issues. And for me, that was by far the most interesting part of the documentary because, having played RuneScape since 2003, I know this game really well, but I've never ever seen Jagex talk about themselves like that before. And that alone warrants you sitting down for 90 minutes to listen to this. So in watching that documentary, I felt like so many old wounds were healed. Of course I love Jagex. Jagex have looked after me as a player very well. And while so many players out there might be thinking right now, oh God, Jagex, they've really screwed up their game. That's a very legitimate position to take. But watching this movie will definitely make Jagex rise in your esteem. You can trust them again, and they're not hiding behind a mask. This documentary, for me, it heralds a brand new Jagex. A company that's honest, a company that's willing to, celebrate its strong points, but face its flaws as well. And that stops it from being feeling like a company more than a human being, a living creature. And that's a very, very exciting prospect for the future. In terms of the actual cinematic experience, well paced, very well paced. It doesn't feel like there's a single wasted shot. Every sentence is poignantly placed. There's no glossing over certain things, you know, like if there's a topic like the Falador Massacre, that just popped into my head. If there's a topic like that, they really go in and have a look at it in detail. They don't kind of just give you the summary. You know, there was this temptation because 15 years is a long time to talk about everything in RuneScape. They, rather than, you know, cherry pick little bits of information, they got the most important stuff and went to town with it. So it's also really, they didn't try to make it too emotional, but in their subtlety about emotion, for me that made it even more emotional, if you get what I'm saying. You know, it left more for me to fill in the gaps. You know, they were trying to be pretty objective about it, and I filled the movie with my own emotions as a viewer. And that, for me, was particularly brilliant as well, because as a musician, as a composer who writes music all the time, that's what I try and do. I don't try and, you know what, no, I'm not going to talk about my music here. Anyway, it's also very entertaining to all persuasions. So it's not just for the people like me who have played for the whole time and have kept tabs on the development of the game. You could be a complete noob and know exactly what they're talking about and appreciate it. You could be retired and have been retired for, I don't know, 8 years and still be able to keep up with all the updates that have gone recently because it's just so well structured, and even though it's not relevant to you, it's still really, really engaging. And it's also really accurate. There wasn't a single moment that I can recall, at least. I had a few glasses of champagne prior to viewing, but from my memory, I never sat down and then went, oh, did you really just say that? You know, like, how can you be so sure that that's a fact? Like, there was nothing that I seriously questioned. They definitely did their homework and offered a pretty good rounded view on everything, even the really tricky matters like botting and microtransactions. You know, you never at any point in that movie felt, oh, come on, you could have, you know, presented that differently, which is great. I happen to be very prominent in the movie for a player. Like, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. I'm not, by any stretch of the imagination, the strongest or most influential, but nonetheless, I appeared quite a bit. I think I had just slightly less time on screen than Zezima. I might even have had more than Boaty or Drumgun, who are these incredible figures in the community. So, you know, I'm not complaining about that, but, you know, it was a bit awkward watching myself on screen, actually. Anyway, you can judge me all you want when you see it. It's also really high quality in terms of in-game footage. Like, you look at all this old school stuff and you look at RuneScape Classic on there and it seems to be so crisp. Like, how the hell did they get that footage? You know, even the Falador Massacre, which was in 2006, and it was recorded on dodgy, you know, screen catchers at the time. How they managed to get such high detail, I don't know. Did they save every frame of the game in some kind of hard drive and then come back with modern technology to film, you know, every footstep that happened on the? I don't know, but it was very, very high quality. Do I have any criticisms for it? I guess if I had to make a criticism, I would say, for a start, that not all the major topics of RuneScape were covered. I mentioned before that there was very good reason for that, because in the limited time that they had, they really needed to sink into, into the topics that they already had. But they cut things like the streaming community. Like, there was no real mention of Twitch or the great YouTubers of all generations. My own personal vested interest in clans was absent as well. But obviously they had, 1.5 hours to make this, to condense everything into. And there was plenty of recorded footage on that. Now, I'm assured that they're going to be releasing that in different segments. So those of you who have a real interest in, for example, Twitch, will be able to get the extra content for that at some stage. Can't promise anything on their behalf, but that was their intention at least. At the premiere itself, I spoke to quite a few people, like a few dozen people, and not a single one of them disliked the documentary in any significant or even any minor way. They were constantly just singing the praises. That may have had something to do with the fact that we were given free booze and food all night. But, you know, even speaking objectively half a week on, and looking back on it with a rather empty stomach at the moment, I must admit. No, it was a great premiere, and it told us everything we wanted to hear and more. It showed us everything we wanted to see and more, and I come away very rewarded by that, and very happy to watch it again, a few times actually, and just close my eyes and block my ears when I show up on the screen. So the release for it for mainstream audiences will come in a couple of weeks. I'm told they have a bit of tweaking to do in various aspects. They have to change a few player titles and fix some sound and levels, things like that. But no, I don't have a release date for everyone else, but in a few weeks. I give it a rating of 9 out of 10. I very seldom give anything 10 out of 10. And for that to have happened, I should have been, you know, rendered speechless and moved to tears. And I have to admit, I did come pretty close. And some people in the audience were crying, and, you know, like, it's RuneScape, but at the same time, 15 years is a huge chunk of our lives. For me, RuneScape has been about half of my lifespan as a human being. So of course it defines me. And, you know, this is one game that proves it's not just a game. Like, that stereotype of the gamer is fast disappearing, and we've got a generation of kids and teenagers who are growing up now who don't understand the terminology of, you know, being a nerd in the same way that a previous generation did. So yeah, whereas 5 years ago I was kind of ashamed to be a RuneScape clan leader, now I thrive on it. So, and it's on my CV, which Jagex shows. Oh, a bit of insider information for you. So they were putting my CV on the documentary, and they forgot to take out my personal details. And then someone spotted it like 3 days before the premiere, and they were like, "Shit, we got to take it off." Otherwise, I would have been, you know, bombarded with all these prank calls and God knows what. But yes, thank you, Jagex, for taking my personal details off my CV for the premiere. So yeah. You do come away feeling like RuneScape and Jagex are living things rather than these cold entities, and they populate it with so many different personalities and you know, these cute little anecdotes. And like I said, it's really easy for a documentary about a topic that we all know so intimately as RuneScape to be boring, but no, there was not a single moment. There wasn't more than 5 seconds where I felt bored. So yes, I thoroughly recommend you watch it, no matter what kind of interest you have in RuneScape. Even if it was just an inkling. Surely if you're subscribed, and if you're watching this movie of the review, then you have enough interest in it to go and watch it. It is well worth your time. And I say, don't watch it in the background. You know, take the time to watch it as a real movie, and you won't regret it. So that's all from me. Please, when the movie comes out, please post in the comments and share your thoughts. I want to talk about this. You know, it's something that I'm going to champion. You know, it's a great piece of community contribution from Jagex, and I hope you agree. So yeah, let me know in the comments when you've watched it or beforehand what you're expecting, or if you've got any doubts or reservations or even questions. You know, I don't think there is actually any confidentiality around it now that it's gone out. So yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions and take your criticism, and I apologize in advance for all the cringeworthy stuff I may or may not have said. See you guys.